For a great cup of joe, there's one thing you should know. Your morning brew can also be playful. Buff Boy Brewing guys make the temperature rise. And you surely feel naughty when you swallow our coffee. If you want some real heat, give your mouth a fine treat. You will want some more, rest assured. Buff Boy Brewing, you can't get enough of.
It's time for The Scribble, your weekly fix of celebrity chats, bizarre stories in the news, and basic random chatter with best-selling author and syndicated radio host Jeremy Bradley. Make sure your seat is in the upright and locked position and your barf bag is securely in place. Here's Jeremy Bradley.
Thank you very much, Larson. Yes, Jeremy Bradley here. This is The Scribble, and thank you for tuning in at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. What a busy week. It started off with the Miss America pageant. We'll talk about that coming up in just a little bit. Then there was the Republican debate with Donald Trump. He was the star on CNN, and it just gets better. We've got a celebrity guest joining us. The Amazing Race Canada wraps up on CTV next week. Host Jon Montgomery, fellow Manitoban actually, will be joining me to talk about the competition and also about the Olympics because you know what? He's a gold medalist. Gold medalist. Won. Have you won a gold medal? And we're talking about the Olympics. I'm not just talking about, at school when everybody gets a medal. We're talking with Jon Montgomery coming up in just a little bit. Hot topics in the news. You don't want to go anywhere. We're back right after this.
Are you tired of commuting to a job that makes someone else rich? Working harder than ever, but getting nowhere? Do you hate spending hundreds of dollars every week on daycare? Having someone else raise your children? With our opportunities, you can start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss, work from home, and live a happier life. At Be the Boss Network, you'll find hundreds of work-from-home opportunities that you can literally start today and be earning money as soon as next week. Go to freedom41.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You get to be the boss. Get out of the rat race. Work from home. Go to freedom41.com right now and change your life today. That's freedom, the number 41.com. Go to freedom41.com and start earning money as soon as next week. You be the boss. Go to freedom41.com.
We're back here on The Scribble, Jeremy Bradley at the controls. So now at the top of the show, just a moment ago, I mentioned the Miss America pageant. It was on ABC. Again, ironically hosted by Chris Harrison, who does the Bachelor, Bachelorette shows that bring the women's movement back several decades because these women are throwing themselves at men and trying to find love, allegedly. And so then, of course, they now have these women parading around in swimsuits and answering questions that really nobody cares the answers to. And then I wonder because, especially on social media, you've got all these people that are objectifying the women who are in their bikinis. And I'm not a woman, I'm going to admit that right now. If I was a woman, though, I would sort of question, why do I need to strip down to a bikini in this competition? And, is that going to have me taken more seriously because I look good wearing a swimsuit as opposed to my outlook on the world and what my opinions are? I'm not really sure. Would love to hear your thoughts on this. Tweet us up or email me. So we're on Twitter at The Scribble Show. That's our Twitter handle is at The Scribble Show. Or you can email me, jb@jbonair.com, jb@jbonair.com. Now, we did see it was Miss Colorado, if I'm not mistaken, who came out for the talent portion, did a monologue. She was dressed in her nurse's uniform. And the women on The View. Oh, Joy Behar, she's been on our radio show. Joy asked a question, why is she wearing a doctor's stethoscope? And then Michelle Collins, who's the comedian. If you haven't watched The View, she's the so-called comedian who really doesn't offer much to conversations except for trying to be funny. She really doesn't have much to say. She tries to set up a joke with everything. It's not just regular discussion or debate. She's got to go for the funny, and it's not working because what ended up happening was she was mocking this contestant on Miss America. Now The View is losing advertisers. Johnson & Johnson and Eggland's Best have pulled out, we just heard late this week, and it's because of the comments about nurses. Now later, a couple days later on, I believe it was Wednesday's View, the females tried to clarify what they meant. Michelle Collins goes and does the whole, we love nurses, this is what it was. So far from an apology, Behar then ended up going and saying, you know what, I didn't really know. I just saw somebody out there. I saw a clip from Miss America and asked that question. and again, essentially pleading ignorance as to what the whole thing was about. So, The View, they bring on they bring Behar back, they bring on Collins, Candace Cameron Bure, who's really barely ever on, but when she is, people don't care for her. If you saw a couple of days before the season premiere, she had posted on Facebook basically asking her friends and followers and fans to say all these wonderful things about her, because The View producers only hear the negative and only see the bad comments of people bashing her and lashing out, calling her hate-filled and bigoted and all these other things. I don't know if the statement is still on her page, but certainly I know that Perez Hilton and a bunch of other gossip websites had it. So before you're even on The View as the co-host, you're already pleading for people to like you and support you. What has it come to? Julie Chen, a couple of days into the new season, she's on The Talk on CBS. She had gone on Howard Stern's radio show and said, Barbara Walters is thinking about coming back to The View. Would that help? And basically everybody's saying, no, Barbara, don't. Of course Julie Chen is going to say that, because that's the competition, right? Now, again, I honestly don't believe that bringing Barbara Walters back to The View is going to make it any better or interesting. I think back in the day when you had the different opinions of the generations. You had all the older women and then one younger person who went against the fray, Elizabeth Hasselbeck, to stir things up. Then you brought on Jenny McCarthy, who people just didn't like in general. Sherry Shepherd, all she ever went on about was her kid. Really no different than Star Jones going on about her wedding all the time, right? So it was interesting to see the casting this season and if it's going to revive the show. I don't know that it is. I think it's a sinking ship. Many people have also discovered that. I watched the very first episode and was kind of like, I don't know, but we'll see. I think there's a lot of debate about who's going to be the first fired. That's, if Michelle Collins is on for the entire season, that'll be a surprise. And then there's the other chick, I don't remember her name. She sits at the end of the table on the right-hand side. Doesn't have much to say. It's just kind of like, we'll see. All right. But people are watching Amazing Race Canada, if I'm not mistaken. It is the #1 show many weeks in that country. And we're going to talk with Jon Montgomery, who is the host of the show, and from my hometown, or from my home province of Manitoba. One more break, and then Jon Montgomery from Amazing Race Canada will be joining us here on the Scribble.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blindness and the risk of amputation, as well as all those other side effects? Well, you should be. Is there anything that could help manage your blood sugar? Nobites is a natural supplement that may quickly and dramatically lower your blood sugar.
My name is Bob Corder. I've been using Nobites for about 3.5 to 4 months now, and in the first 3 months, I've actually lowered my blood sugars from 500s down to 139, and then it dropped to 88 to 93.
My name is Kirsten. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and while taking Nobites, my blood sugar levels dropped from 295 to 115 in just one day.
The FDA hasn't evaluated these statements, and Nobites isn't intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But for many, it's helped drop their blood sugar. So if you've been evaluated with high blood sugar, don't delay. Evaluate Nobites now. Call 800-478-9568 and get your free bottle. Just cover shipping and handling. Call 800-478-9568. That's 800-478-9568.
Celeb spotting on the Scribble.
It's a race around the world, and you know what? I can't wait to hear his New Zealand accent again. Jon Montgomery from Amazing Race Canada joining us on the line. Hello there.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. New Zealand, eh? What kind of a New Zealand accent am I supposed to have?
You've got a Manitoba accent like I do. That's the thing, right?
That's right.
I should point out, John, actually, you're from my home province of Manitoba. The big city, right? Russell.
It's a huge metropolis of Russell, yes. All 1,500 of us.
Yeah, well, I've got to say, you know what? Because during the Olympics, for those who aren't familiar, John, now a famous Olympian, you were really rocking the province. There were some celebrations in your hometown. I'm sure you've seen the pictures and heard the stories about that.
Well, I'm sure they were celebrating all good things Canadian that was happening in 2010, not just myself, but I was happy that I could be part of it.
Well, let's talk about that. We'll get to Amazing Race Canada in just a bit, but you know, I want you to brag. So you've won Olympic, you've won Worlds medals. How many medals do you have? Where do you keep them? Give us the dirt.
I don't know how many I've won, although I do keep my Olympic gold medal in a sock drawer, so it's easy access on my way out the door when I'm heading to events, because quite honestly, if it had legs, it wouldn't need me, because I think it's the hot topic when I do go to events, for sure.
Events too, but come on, do you take it to, like, you know, house parties and things like that, or has the novelty worn off?
Well, I've never taken it to a house party like that, but when I do get invited to go and speak and present and be at public events, usually there's a lot of interest in the medal as well, so that's where it makes its debut.
let's talk about that, because again, you won. It was your home turf. Are you thinking about what the country is going to feel? Are you focused on the event at hand? Like, what's in your mind when you're competing at the Olympics?
Well, the only thing that should be on your mind is the execution of your game plan for the moment that matters most, what you've been training the last, 4, 8, 12, 16 years for, is your performance on that day. So you can't be thinking about what the country thinks of you. And to be honest with you, anybody that's worth their salt is going to love you all the same, whether you're win, lose, or draw. And that's what your family does, and they're there to support you in those sorts of times, win, lose, or draw. And anything else that comes along in terms of support is bonus, and anything that's negative, well, you can pay it no mind because it doesn't really matter.
Exactly. But yes, Canada definitely, it was a proud moment for the country watching that. So, speaking of Canada, Amazing Race Canada, what I love about the show, you can go from Saskatchewan to India in a 1-hour time period. That's pretty incredible.
On TV. In reality, it takes much longer, which I'm going to be honest is a grind, man. Getting from Saskatoon to Kolkata doesn't just happen because you want it to. You got to, put in the time and travel, and it's a trek, I'll be honest.
Well, yeah, what I love about the Canadian version, though, is that it always seems to come back to Canada, right? With the American one, they're just going from country to, or even continent to continent, but it always seems like part of this race kind of always brings you back or takes you away from Canada at some point, right?
That's the plan, yeah. We get out there, we explore our country, but in the same breath, we're going to go abroad and find Canadian themes and angles and things to celebrate in other countries around the world. And there are a lot of Canadian connections in a lot of places around the world, and we try to play those up a little bit, have some fun with them, and show the world, or show Canadians, the rest of the world, and while showcasing our own backyard here and letting people know that we have a lot to be proud of here at home.
While you've been exploring the Canadian backyard, I know you've traveled coast to coast and around the world. What has surprised you most about the Great White North while you're venturing out to all these places?
Well, I guess it's always refreshing, not surprising, but refreshing to see how Canadians interact with their own people, I guess. And watching it on the show, how helpful Canadians are, and how gregarious and outgoing, and how much personality the different areas in Canada embody. And when you're in Newfoundland, the people there are salt of the earth. I love the folks on the East Coast. The West Coast is where I call home. Wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the world. And I grew up on the prairie, so I've pretty much been able to live in just about every single part of the country. And for me, I'm always rewarded with going around and introducing, I guess, new things to Canadians and showing them what else we can be proud of here in our backyard besides what we know in our own local areas.
So if you could pick one place, not necessarily to live, or even just to spend a day, if you got the afternoon and the evening free in Canada, where would you go?
Well, if I had a jet and it was no problem getting anywhere, well, to be honest, there's a lake right by the house where I'd rather spend most of my time than anywhere else in Canada. But I've got to get to Labrador. Haven't been up there yet, and that is calling me. That's probably one of the few undiscovered areas in the country that I can go and do a little bit of touring around. So Fogo Island, maybe up there. I've seen a lot of pictures and a lot of ad campaigns from that particular neck of the woods, and so that would be some place that I would like to go and explore a little bit more.
So if John Brunton's listening right now, next season, right?
Yeah, exactly. He is there.
Let's put it out there. What's been the reaction as you're traveling the world? We hear that people love Canadians no matter where you go. Is that honestly what you've experienced, though, when you've traveled to other places doing this show?
Absolutely. We are met with open arms, and people, try and, I guess, ask us what we're doing in every place that we've been. And when we do tell them where we're from, it's always met with a smile and definitely open arms in terms of being welcomed into communities and neighborhoods and countries in that regard.
Okay, so about the competition then, looking at the teams this season, because I'm sure you meet them before they come onto the show. Has anybody surprised you? Did you sort of pinpoint anybody at the beginning and say, they're going to be a disaster, and then they've actually done really well?
Nobody like that, but I have been pleasantly surprised by, who surprised me a little bit this year is Brent and Sean. I mean, those guys, their intestinal fortitude, maybe Sean's intestinal fortitude isn't what it should be for the puking matter, but in terms of having that gut strength to push on and to believe in themselves and to leave nothing on the race, Brent Dijon this year were definitely pleasant surprises for me because they pushed a lot harder than I thought they could.
Do these people know the rules of the game on the season? Because there's been a lot of penalties handed out, and it's just like nobody's following the rules, right?
Well, we don't hand out penalties. People incur penalties because they know that they either don't want to finish a challenge or can't finish a challenge, and there's a lot of strategy to be, I guess, considered when you are taking a penalty. We don't give them, people take them. So we haven't, last year I believe that there was one penalty which caused a stoppage in play, and it was just unsafe behavior in terms of driving, running a red light, which is a 15-minute penalty for the first infraction, and that played out on screen last year. And this year we haven't had any such occurrences, but people are taking penalties as a result of some really challenging challenges.
But see, when they're quitting like that, doesn't it just make you want to say, you know what, give me your passport. You know what, you're not on the race anymore. You're done. You're done.
No, not at all. Like I said, there's a lot of strategy to be played in some of these penalties, and if, for lack of a better reason, or lack of a better term, they do quit, there's sometimes that is your best choice. Because if you cannot complete a challenge, what's the point of beating your head against the wall, let everybody get ahead of you? If you know that you're not going to do it, I would suggest taking the penalty. But in the same breath, think about it before you do it. I mean, last year I think that there was a situation where, there was some quitters, and they just didn't think about it long enough. They didn't think about it hard enough. There was nothing physically overwhelming about that particular challenge. It was just simply that they couldn't be bothered to try and work any harder at it, and that was quitting. But this year I haven't seen an example of anybody actually quitting. The penalties that have been taken, I think that they were well thought through, and I don't think anybody should hang their head for taking a penalty this year.
But is it happening more on the Canadian version than the American? I mean, the American version's been on 20-something seasons. I don't, it just seems weird that it's happening this season on the Canadian version.
Ours is harder, plain and simple.
So let's
make it easy. Who's gonna need to take a penalty? And that it shouldn't be made so easy that anybody could just walk through it. It needs to be made tough enough that some people on the race just aren't going to be able to do it, and they'll have to strategize about potentially taking a penalty.
Let's talk about teams in general, though. What, in your opinion, what makes a good team? Or is it the type of relationship? Is it if you're married, if it's a parent, if it's your child? Like, what should people, if they want to go on the show next season, what kind of personality traits or characteristics should they bring?
Well, I think, like you mentioned, relationship is first and foremost to any successful partnership. And you saw Gino and Jesse, hug it out last week on at the Finding Mini John, or the mini-me portion of the race. They took a second. They were at each other's throats. They got back to what makes them tick and what makes them work, which is a brotherhood, a bromance there that they've got going on. They hugged it out. They got back on task. They found Mini John, and they were on the move again. And if you don't have that kind of a relationship where you can be open and honest and take a second to, claw each other's eyes out, but then get back to what makes you guys strong, you're looking at the team that was relieved of, their passport on the race last week was Dijon and Leilani, and they didn't fight as well. They didn't work together as well, and when they were getting short with one another, it just continued to deteriorate their relationship, and they paid the price for it. And so I think that ability to fight well, fight nice, get back on point, and buckle down, I think that's going to be what is most important in a relationship. You saw last year Megan and Natalie go along and win, 7 legs in a row, something like that. And they weren't the strongest team, but they worked well together. They worked well under pressure, and they communicated well. And that's that was the reason for their success. They were obviously talented and physical, but they weren't the strongest people on the team, and they still found ways to prevail and overcome. So I think that's what you got to be looking for when you're picking a partner.
So you're running the race. Who is your partner?
Well, it has to be my wife. And sadly, I don't know that she and I embody all those qualities that I just mentioned to be able to do well on the race. Because I guess when I fight, I get pretty wound up, and then I explode a little bit, and then she's sort of left reeling in my wake. And so we'd have to find a way for me to get back on point a little bit quicker from my perhaps Scottish heritage that causes me to blow up a little bit, but I think that she and I would do all right. Navigation would definitely be our Achilles heel on the race for sure.
Yeah. She's joining us on the line. Let's ask her. No, I'm kidding. Every season when we have Phil Kogan on, actually he's on our show next week, but I ask him, what's the hardest location to pronounce for you this season?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't think of it, sorry.
Just a couple
what it is?
Oh.
Brent Sean's hometown. I don't even want to venture a guess at what that was. I did read it once, and I think I did an okay job when they were doing the opening credits of the opening episode.
Right.
But, their hometown is a mouthful.
So you're not going to win that award, like the weather guy. Did you see that a couple weeks ago?
I did see that. That was bananas. I watched it a whole bunch of times. And basically, when I was finished watching it, I had no idea how he was able to get his brain wrapped around the phonetically saying that correctly.
Apparently he practiced, so I guess maybe practice is perfect, right? You just have to work on that next time.
I need more than 1,000 hours to get that one right.
Actually, well, Phil has said to us that sometimes they even have debates and arguments amongst each other about how to pronounce certain things, and then they ask locals,
totally.
and yeah. So, well, and that's the thing too, right? Is that you don't want to mispronounce it. I think a couple weeks ago I heard that. Well, let's get off track here. Global News, I believe, has somebody from Toronto doing the Manitoba weather on the weekends, and totally mispronounced some areas in Winnipeg and in Manitoba, which you're going to offend the locals. That's not good.
That would ruffle some feathers. Yeah, and we do take it very seriously. The pronunciation of words, the places that are serving as landmarkers and so on. And it's probably one of the most important things that I'm tasked with on the show, is saying things correctly, because it is important to the locals, and you want to do it justice, and you don't want to offend anybody. So yeah, we have lots of discussions about is it buffalo or bison, and we don't always get it right, but we do put a lot of effort into it. And with all the moving parts and with all the words that we have to choose very carefully for the show, of course one or two slip through, and you know what, there's always the guy at home who's watching and listening very, very intently, and he will send you that note, so we wait for them.
They're called Twitter nerds is what they're called, I believe.
Oh, I didn't know they had a handle, but I'll use that.
I think that they're just geeks. They're low lives. That's what it is. No, it's true. But definitely regional importance, because it's a Jeannie's cake, not a Jenny's cake, right?
That's right.
We know that. All right. So the race is in the home stretch, though. The big season finale coming up. What can we expect on that episode?
More awesomeness, a winner. I promise you, they will be Canadians. A man and a woman will have made each of the winners, and that's about all I can tell you, man.
Groundbreaking. That is just riveting.
Yeah, isn't that just what you wanted to hear?
You've just lit up Twitter. They're already now saying that you've spoiled it for them. Well, we're going to be watching Amazing Race Canada. It airs on CTV, right?
You betcha.
Jon Montgomery, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Ever had something to get off your chest but never had the balls to say it? That's a load of crap. Speak Free with JB.com is exactly what you've been waiting for. Your chance to tell it like it is and not care what anybody else thinks. Have your say on issues of the day. Join newspaper and radio columnist Jeremy Bradley as he tells it like it is. Hundreds of thousands of people have stopped by, including some well-known celebrities who have had a chat with JB and speak candidly about what's really going on in the world. You can join them too. Have a rant or a rave. Be brave and head on over to www.speakfreewithjb.com now.
Jeremy Bradley here, back on the Scribble. At the top of the show, we talked about Sunday night's Miss America pageant and the drama that unfolded on The View after the co-hosts made some not-so-pleasant remarks about nurses in general. Now, they really didn't. They were just sort of commenting about this one contestant on the show. But certainly it was something that got eyes opened. Now, on Wednesday, CNN aired the Republican debate, which I'm going to say starred Donald Trump. It really did star Donald Trump. It was 3 hours, which is incredibly long. I did not watch it live, I must say, but I did DVR it. And here's what honestly, I'm going to open up and tell you what I did. I only fast-forwarded it until the times that Trump was talking. Anytime that Trump was on the screen, I stopped it and I listened to it. Because a lot of the questions, and I think they even opened like the first two questions, were about Trump and his opinions and views. So they asked the other candidates about Trump. Trump was given the platform. Whether it was asking him questions or asking the others questions about him, the focus was on Trump. And then at the end of the debate, that when it's casual, just to chit-chat, we're catching up with these people after they're leaving the debate, Trump was the first one that they talked to after the debate as well. So, Trump went on the record to say that he believes that he should be paid for his appearances on CNN because their advertising rates are going through the roof now. So I don't know if he's getting buddy-buddy with the network or what, but certainly there's some sort of a connection that CNN has with Donald Trump. Would love to know your thoughts about how I don't follow politics at all. For me, I'm an entertainment reporter, and I just thought it's fascinating to watch what he's going to say because everybody's trying to come up against him. They say that he's not giving specifics about his policies, his platforms, his stances on things, and really none of them answered questions directly. They sidestep it, right? So there wasn't as much mudslinging as I hoped for a political debate. There was, don't get me wrong, but certainly Trump was the star. 11 people that were on there, even Trump was just like, I don't know why he's here. I don't know why he's here. You've got 1% of the vote. You've got this. You've got that. You might as well be gone. That's ballsy. That is ballsy when you're just going to be calling these people out and go, yeah, you're not even competition. Why are you here? Just get lost. You're wasting our time. And certainly those people didn't get much screen time at the CNN debate. Would love to hear your thoughts. jb@jbonair.com is my email address, or tweet me up at The Scribble Show. That's at The Scribble Show on Twitter. So, yeah, definitely an interesting political race that we're seeing unfold here. And on the other side of the line, we've got Hillary Clinton, who has buddied up with Kim Kardashian. Now, a couple weeks ago, there was this selfie that Kardashian and Clinton posed for. The story was that nobody was allowed to take pictures with Clinton, but somehow Kardashian broke through and was able to get a selfie with her. Now, when I look at it, I go, well, that's pretty smart for Clinton to do because Kardashian has how many tens of millions of fans on social media? Well, and it's just like Bieber. You don't want to piss off the Kardashian or the Bieber fans. There could have been backlash if all of a sudden Kim goes and says, hey, I wanted a picture with Hillary Clinton and she didn't pose. Well, now you've got all these potential Kardashian fans who could vote and even possibly read that are just now going to be anti-Hillary Clinton, and that could sink her. And it's sad to think that somebody like Kim Kardashian or any of these celebutantes or whatever they're called could have that clout that could lose you votes or even potentially a political race because of what they say. It's sad. It's not that Kim Kardashian is powerful. She's just got all of these fans and followers and fanatics. And they're fanatics. They are. Trust me. So certainly then Clinton ended up coming forward and saying that she admires Kim and that she's, got an incredible home life with Kanye and with the baby. And, she's just this woman who every day gets up to tries to be professional and better herself and be successful. And I just thought, that's very weird because I don't know very many Americans or women in general that would go and say, I want to be like Kim Kardashian tomorrow. I'm going to be Kim Kardashian. Clinton is describing any woman that has a kid, that has a job, that is either a stay-at-home mom, has a career, is a single mom, anything like that. Clinton described a female. She's not describing Kardashian. Sure, she threw in Kanye and the baby or whatever it is, but a successful woman who is striving to do her best, whatever, that's 98% of the females that I know, honestly. Again, jb@jbonair.com is my email address, jb@jbonair.com. And remember, Twitter, @The Scribble Show. Tell them, Larson.
We hear you chirping. Get scribbling. Tweet up the Scribble at The Scribble Show. Join the discussion with Jeremy Bradley. It's all going down right now on Twitter @The Scribble Show and @thescribbleshow.com.
That's right. You tell him, Larson. Jeremy Bradley here, back on The Scribble. Earlier in the show, we had Jon Montgomery, Olympic gold medalist and host of The Amazing Race Canada. And I was actually just told during our last break that we had him on our show back in 2010. And it's funny because here's the deal. In our studio behind me, we've got a wall of fame, which is pictures of me with celebrities on the red carpets and different things like that. And we actually have the picture on the wall behind me, and I see it every day. We've been doing our radio show. It's 9.5 years. So 5 years ago, we met him. It was in St. John's, Newfoundland at Canada's Juno Awards. And again, he had actually just won the gold, if I'm not mistaken. That's why he was there. And yeah, so we chatted there. He was on our syndicated radio show, and there we are. So I I have met him, and there we go. No, I do remember. Yeah, it's tough. We do so many interviews, and he does so many interviews as well. I don't blame him for not remembering, and I didn't remember in all honesty either. What I do remember is that Phil Kogan from The Amazing Race is on our show every season, and we actually had him when we first started doing the Scribble 30 weeks ago, I believe. So as Amazing Race Canada wraps up on CTV, The Amazing Race kicks off on CBS next week, actually just a few days. So Phil Kogan, I believe, is joining us again. Is it next week or is it in 2 weeks? Either way, Phil Kogan. If you've got questions for him, send me an email, jb@jbonair.com. Phil Kogan, host of The Amazing Race. And we've also got, I think we've got some Survivor contestants coming up. We've got a bunch of other people. Stick around in the weeks to come. All the details at thescribbleshow.com and on SoundCloud and iTunes. My name is Jeremy Bradley. I will talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.
Want more Scribble? Check out thescribbleshow.com for past shows, celebrity interviews, cheapskate tips, and more. That's at thescribbleshow.com and on Twitter at The Scribble Show. The Scribble is a speak-free media presentation.
If you want some real heat